I don't call him Akbar the Great. Don't delete this. Movies like Jodha Akbar, where you see them like, Ram and Sita and doing such great things for their Janata. But this is the reality in Peter Munde's book. So once he was traveling from Agra to Patna, I think, and in 80 kilometers of that, he saw about 200 minars. But instead of bricks, they had used skulls. So he asked people, who are these? They said, oh, these are the dacoits. They were not the dacoits. They were the farmers who rebelled. Shivarai was a leader. He created a hierarchy in his army. He will not give any grant to any jagirdar. He will not allow them to collect taxes from the watandars. He will have his own people in the army and in the civil services where the salaries will come from his treasury. In the system of the Mughals, they were forced to pay. If they did not, they were actually beaten very badly, or else their wife and children were taken and sold in slave trade. Muhammad Ghazni to Khilji's, that time how they did the leadership? First of all, they created an illusion that they are between their God and the Janata. But that was not enough. So they said, it's a rich place. And we will, of course, massacre whoever doesn't convert. And we will loot, and there's plenty of money. Condition is, when you loot, you keep 80% and give me only 20%. Their Gudaswars used to get salary of 20 rupees a month. How much salary was Shivarai's horsemen would get? 2 rupees. If they did not love their leader,
they would not work for him.
Exactly. They would join the Mughals, but they didn't. But Shambhu Raje got captured. And what did Aurangzeb say to him? You asked all your fort commanders to surrender. Then we'll spare your life. And tell us which Mughals, our soldiers, had helped you in getting information about us. He said, you kill me. No problem. When he died such death, he showed bravery in death. The Marathas, every Maratha's heart was set on fire.
Medha Bhaskaran ma'am, thank you so much for doing this and welcome to the Arrived podcast. Today is a very special day for me because I am hearing from the horse's mouth. And just to give a context to the podcast episode that we're doing today, you've talked a lot about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's history and Chhatrapati Shambhuji Maharaj's history as well. Today, however, I want to know and understand what kind of leadership qualities did these legends have, and how can we as modern day leaders learn from them. So that will be the theme of the podcast. And also, since you call Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj as Shivarai and Shambhuji Maharaj as
Shambhu
Raje, will you also grant me the permission to do the same for the ease of doing it?
Yes.
Thank you.
They are Shivarai and Shambhu Raje sound as if they belong to my family, or I belong to their family.
Super. So, ma'am, to begin with, how do you think is Shivarai relevant to the youth today?
Shivarai is relevant to today's youth in many, many ways, because the way he led his people, you see. For example, the first thing a leader must have is empathy for his people. If today you ask the corporate leaders, what is their responsibility, whom they are responsible for, most of the time they will say that they are responsible for their customers. I don't agree. While studying Shivarai, I have realized that the leaders are first responsible for their people, who are responsible for the customers. You understand? in here it is the nation. What he was building is a nation. So empathy for your people, for your team, and love for your team is most important.
Correct. Very interesting. Very, very, very important. I believe if you have your team on your side, your team will do as you want them to do for your customers also.
So I have a fortune of working in the pharmaceutical corporate world in 3 countries. I worked in food industry in Germany and in pharmaceutical industry, quite big pharmaceutical houses in India and quite big pharmaceutical houses, distributors in Dubai. So if you ask me, I never got a great leader. I had to invent and reinvent myself to be relevant to the job I was doing. But remember, Shivarai was a leader. You can be a bhakt of your leader. I'm not talking about those bhakts. I'm talking about people who were inspired to die for the idea of their leader. How many people you will find today?
Very few.
Will you find any one single person who is ready to die for the idea of his leader? Anybody? I mean, following the idea of his leader or ideology.
Very few. Very hard to find.
It's very hard to find. So he created a nation. I will tell you, leader has to invent new things. Now, I'll tell you, we had many kings who resisted the invasions of Turks, who resisted the invasions of Afghans, who resisted the invaders who came from Central Asia and beyond. And most of them were riding high on jihad. Okay. So they were Islamic invaders. In one hand, they had a sword, and another hand, they had a Quran. Either convert or die. And it happened for several centuries. We had great leaders. India, I wouldn't say we. Now, everybody is we. Okay, I consider everybody is we. I do not actually believe in religions or caste.
Yes.
So I have friends from all the religions and all the castes. The thing is, our kings, the kings who were there in India, for example, Jayapala Deva in 10th century and his son Anandapala Deva. The thing is, when the king dies, everybody runs away. Swami Bhakti or loyalty to their Swami was our Brida Vakya or fundamentals of our philosophy. For example, I really admire Prithviraj Chauhan. I admire him. But when he fell, everything finished.
But that wasn't the case with Shivarai.
So why? People don't understand why that was not the case with Shivarai. Because a king is not just a king who shows bravery on the battlefield, but the king is a leader who invents and establishes systems. See, now for your MBA or your doctorates, you have subjects like accounting system. My brother is a doctorate in that and he's a professor at Penn State. Then you have management systems. So Shivarai is a very special king we had who developed the systems. The leader. He developed the system. He never inherited a kingdom. His forefathers did not have a kingdom. He did not snatch a kingdom from anybody. He did not declare a coup against a king to acquire his throne. It's very difficult to create a nation. So what he developed was a nation's system. You see?
Yeah.
So that is you invent something which was not there before.
And also, ma'am, I think when you talk about systems and leadership, it is important to develop systems, because a leader can't be everywhere.
Leader
but a
cannot
system
be
can be everywhere,
correct.
right? And your systems need to be the lifeblood of your organization or empire in this case. And that's probably what you're talking about here. One more important part that I learned while doing research for this podcast is how he inspired people around him to believe in his vision of Swaraj. How do you think one can translate or transfer that kind of vision with such depth and clarity to his or her people that they believe in the same mission and vision as the leader? How did he manage to do that apart from systems?
It was first and foremost what the love he felt for his people, and what he did when he was a child, as a teenager. Those days, it was a norm. It was a very normal thing. And I'm not talking about Islamic invaders. I'm talking about Hindu watandars who used to collect taxes from the agriculturists. So these Hindu watandars started acting like kings, little kings. And they thought that whatever is in their territory belongs to them, including the women. So there was one Patil from Ranze. He misbehaved with a girl in that Ranze village. It was a normal thing. But Shivarai was then in his teens, punished the Patil, which had never happened before. You see, he actually, his 2 limbs were severed. Yeah. So people, that was the first ever, first time it was happening that somebody was protecting the people.
Mm.
So this is the first thing. He said there has to be a justice. And whoever misbehaves will be punished. That was the first thing. So people fell in love with him. First, he was a Jagirdar's son. What was and then he realized that all these centuries, they have followed a system. They means who? They means the Mughal Empire, Adil Shahi, Qutub Shahi, Nizam Shahi, where Nizam Shahi's king had given the Jagirdar the land as a grant to his father. Then there was Hindu kingdom of Vijayanagara Empire. They followed a system. What system they followed? They followed a system of Jagirdari. That means if you are an emperor and I'm a warrior, what you will say that, look, there were no women warriors but I'm just saying.
Yes, ma'am.
Take this land, say 1,000 villages, 2,000 villages, collect the agriculture tax, okay, and maintain cavalry for me.
So basically lending out your army, or
not lending, outsourcing your army.
Yes, sorry, yeah.
Outsourcing your army.
So the Jagirdars were lending out their army, was it?
Yeah, Jagirdar would maintain the army. Army means mostly cavalry for their king or their emperor, and bring his cavalry to the field when the king needs it. Means the kings or the emperors were the titular heads.
Hey.
Okay. Whenever there was a rebellion, now what happened when this happened? The emperors and the sultans did not much relate to the Janata. They were very far away from the psyche of the Janata. They didn't know what's happening on the ground. Who knew what is happening on the ground? Were the Watandars. Okay, so Watandar, as a Watandar, and I'm also from a Watandar family, if we collected 1,000 rupees as an agriculture tax, how will anybody know how much I've collected? I may give only 200 rupees to the Jagirdar. And I will, in turn, I'll become immensely rich. I will build fortresses. I will keep sentinels. So many power centers were there. It's not decentralization of power. I'm not talking about that. It is the ugly heads of power centers. Does it sound familiar today
Yes.
in today's politics?
It does.
It does. That's incorrect. See, there are two things. Decentralization of the power is different. Then the ugly power heads, which are rearing their heads and they're bossing around. That is different. Okay. So Shivrai didn't want this system. So what was the alternative? So that is his leadership comes. What was 2000 years? May it be Hindu kings of the Yor, the empires, 2000, 3000, 2000 years ago. Or maybe the invaders' empires and the sultanates. Or may it be Vijayanagara Empire. Everybody depended on the Jagirdari system. Okay, including in English country, UK, Europe, the feudal lords. So what was the alternative to feudal lordship? Where his people, see, his love for the people, he knew his people are getting troubled not only by the invaders, but mainly they are getting troubled by his own people, sons of the soils, which were the Vatandars. So he wanted to invent a system. So he invented a system. Like he created a hierarchy in his army. He will not give any grant to any Jagirdar. He will not allow them to collect taxes from the Vatandars. He will have his own people in the army and in the civil services where the salaries will come from his treasury. It was a huge responsibility, you know. Even the emperors, the Mughal emperors did not dare to go into this. If you want to pay the salary to the people, even in your house, suppose you have 4 or 5 house helps working in your house or in your office, there are 10 people who you have to pay the salary. There is a kind of a tension.
It's a stress.
It's the stress, right? That much money you have to generate. Now imagine when Shivrai started, he might have had 100, 200, 300 farmers or balutedars, the goldsmiths, the blacksmiths, and the carpenters and the barbers in his army. Maybe 200 or 300 who could fight in the field. When he passed, he had about, say, 40,000 to 50,000 footmen, okay, infantrymen, 30 to 35,000 horsemen, okay, and he had 300 to 350 forts and the fort garrisons. So how many? Maybe 150,000 people? Plus his civilians who collected taxes because he reduced the power of the Vatandars. Okay. So those civilians, milake at least 2 lakh to at least 200,000 people he had to pay salary. So for that, they had to collect the taxes from the agriculturists with love. They were strict. But what happened in the system of the Mughals? They were forced to pay. Now, talking about Akbar, you say he reduced jizya tax. But there was another tax called kharaj, where the Hindu agriculturists had to pay 50% of their produce in cash or in kind to the Mughal tax collectors. If they did not, then their wife and children, they were actually beaten very badly, or else their wife and children were taken and sold in slave trade. So when Shivrai invented this new system, why wouldn't people love him? and follow him and were ready to follow him to death. And
So-
you tell me one person's name, one leader's name. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm ignorant, but I would like to know that is there any leader where his people fought for the leader and his idea for 27 years after the leader's death?
if you call yourself ignorant, then I don't even stand a chance. So I would not know for sure.
For his cause, it's till the death of Aurangzeb. Remembering him, taking strength from his name and his thoughts and his dream.
That's like a war cry in a way, where you remember, you take strength from your Isht or your God, and you go for war. It's as good as that, if not same.
Yeah. And also now you can even ask me, how did the jihadist invaders from different countries, how did they manage their army? What was their leadership? How they led?
Actually, that
See,
was
they
supposed
must be
to-
having some kind of a leadership quality also.
Hmm.
We cannot condemn them.
That was actually my next question, that if this was how Shivarai did things, the Mughals also managed large armies and empires,
Exactly.
and there must be something that is propelling their people to fight for them. I mean, people are people and leaders are leaders, whether
Yes,
they belong
yes.
to a certain religion or
Religion,
or
caste,
region.
creed, whatever.
Right.
Leaders are leaders.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think if we purely talk about historical facts, Mughals did a pretty good job from the leadership point of view, political point of view, of creating an empire. I don't know how good a job they did of running an empire, a just empire, but they did a pretty good job from a political point of view of creating a huge empire across the country.
At least the optics.
At least the optics.
At least the optics.
At least the optics and
Yeah.
the illusion that you talk about
Yeah,
also.
illusion. Yeah.
Right. So what did they do so differently?
So we will talk about first invaders like the Khiljis. The Ghazni, Muhammad Ghazni to Muhammad Ghori to Khiljis. Okay, so that time how they did the leadership? First of all, they created a illusion and a kind of this thing that they are between their God and the Janata.
Hmm.
They have that kind of a power, But that was not enough. That was not enough. What they also said, I'm not talking about the Mughals, how they became the leaders. They said, see, they came with 10,000, 20,000, 200,000, 250,000 people along with them.
Yeah.
What they told they were all mercenaries. They were not that nationalistic fervor. They did
They
not
were just
have that.
paid for.
Okay, what they said in the beginning, I'm talking about the beginning of the invasion. They said, they used to call after Sindhu, there is Hindustan. They created that name.
Because they cannot pronounce the word S.
S.
So they call it
Hindustan. So they said, it's a rich place and we are going there and we will, of course, massacre whoever doesn't convert and we will loot and there's plenty of money. So, condition is, when you loot, when you take men, women, children as slaves, or you get precious metals, whatever, you keep 80% and give me only 20%. So,
there is no nationalism in that. There is no love, no empathy. It's just money.
and many people think that where is the reference, they ask. See, I cannot give my for everything, I cannot say what is the reference. It's beyond my brain. So you can read my books for that. You see,
Absolutely.
if you want the reference. So in the beginning, it was that game that you keep 80%, give me 20%. See, you get 20% from 25,000 people, you are a rich man.
Yeah.
And even it gives a kind of a perk. It's a perk for 80% of the money you collect is your perk
Yeah.
for a soldier.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he kill?
Yeah, he would.
Why
of
wouldn't
course,
he
would do
loot?
anything?
He'll do anything. So if you call this leadership, yes, then they were the leaders.
Coming back to the leadership qualities of Shivarai and Shambhu Raje, one of the most interesting aspects that I found while researching was the techniques that they had, that they followed during this period of building the empire.
Don't you want to know about the Mughals? Then what happened? How the leadership changed?
Okay, ma'am. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
should
so
do that.
we will take step by step.
Okay,
You know?
so
So
we-
these are the invaders
Okay.
who came in the beginning, that you take 80%, give me 20%. And for us, not us, the kings of Hindustan, I should not say us because everybody is us now. The kings of Hindustan then, their idea of loyalty was Swami Bhakti. If the king falls, the entire kingdom falls. Okay, we have seen this. That is how Anandapala, actually, Jayapala Deva's son, Anandapala, a lot of kings of the Hindustan had come and joined him. But then they saw, there was some kind of, when he was sitting on an elephant, there was naphtha explosives somewhere, they went off and it made a big noise. And the elephant got scared and elephant started running. And when so many other kings who had come to help him, and their army, when they saw, उन्होंने देखा कि ये elephant राजा को लेके भाग रहा है, they all dispersed. And the real gates of India were flung open for the invaders. So Swami Bhakti. Okay, so Mughals, what happened with the Mughals? No, this was the beginning.
Yes.
This was their leadership. Leadership in the case of take money
Yes.
and be rich.
This was their.
And
hack to
उनका
leadership.
पैसा भी नहीं था वो. They were not giving it from their pocket, na? So that was the Janata of Hindustan.
Yes.
So this was their leadership. So that is not relevant in today's world. Second is the Mughal Empire. Now Mughal Empire, of course, if you read certain books, which the reference is there in my books, if you see their entire Mughal Empire, 22 provinces they had, and they had beautiful cities in the middle, and rest was all like a cantonment, which was chhawnis of the soldiers. Even if you see Delhi, only the Shahjahanabad was beautiful. The rest of Delhi was not beautiful. So it's like today's world, certain areas are beautiful, certain areas are not beautiful. So it was not like an ideal kingdom. Also, there was a person called Peter Munde. I always tell this story. Not story, it's a real thing. He worked for the East India Company. And he used to visit Agra many times because they used to have a lot of, business propositions and trade going on between them, the Mughal emperors and the East India Company. So once he was traveling from Agra to Patna, I think, and in 80 kilometers of that, it is there, you can download his book, Peter Munde, Travelogue. He has Rekha Chitra also in that, line drawings. So in that 80 kilometers, he saw about 200 minars. Minars means minarets. But instead of bricks, they had used skulls. And each minar had about 40-50 skulls. And 200 minars means he saw 8,000 skulls. It is there written. मेरा मन घड़त कहानी नहीं है. Okay. So he asked people, who are these? They said, oh, these are the dacoits. They were not the dacoits. They were the farmers who rebelled. Because they couldn't survive 50% kharaj. And this was, which year, it was 1632. Download that book. And he has a line drawing of this minar with skulls hanging out.
That's not leadership, that's dictatorship. And that's hell.
So, this was in 1632 when Jahangir had died and Shah Jahan had just taken over. So, this was going on from Akbar's time also. I don't call him Akbar the Great.
Indeed.
Don't delete this.
Of course not.
Okay. So, this was going on. So, what are you talking about? And you make movies like Jodha Akbar where you see them like, Ram and Sita and doing such great things for their Janata. But this is the reality in Peter Munde's book. You see? So, is that a leadership? Also, when you talk about Jagirdari system in the Mughal Empire, okay, now Jagirdars, they called them Mansabdars. Mansabdars was a rank. Mansab is a rank. Some were civil and most of them were military. Means even if you are a Hakim or a doctor in the Mughal Empire, you are also a Mansabdar. You will get more money and less Gudaswars, less horsemen. But if you are a military Mansabdar, you will get more horses and you will get a grant of a land also. So you can collect taxes and maintain your cavalry. So, suppose means the king is only sitting. King will get 20% of the collected money. The emperor, I mean. Okay. So, when the power was transferred from Shah Jahan to Aurangzeb, how many Mansabdars, Jagirdars were there? Military Mansabdars in the Mughal Empire, do you know? They were about 8,000. So, the Mughal Empire of 22 provinces was divided into 7,000, more than 7,000 pieces. Each managed by a Mansabdar. You are a local gunda there.
So do you.
Yeah. So where does Janata go to? They show that they were having very good justice system. But how many people can reach Agra? It is their local person. There was no Indigo, of course.
Absolutely.
Indigo also has failed now. But there were no aircrafts, or you can go to Agra just like that. You don't have money to travel.
When you don't have money,
your king is your Mansabdar.
Yeah.
So imagine your huge empire, optics, is divided into so many thousands. Smaller empires. So what are you talking about?
Why do you think then?
So what is leadership here? There is no leadership.
There is no leadership now.
And the optics of their, now they say, who attacked the Mughal Empire? Nobody attacked because the Marwar, Jaswant Singh Rathods joined them. Only Ranas didn't join them. Rest of everybody joined them because their optics were so powerful. Their cavalcade used to start from one village and end into third or fourth village. They will have parades also in Delhi to show off their military strength. But that military strength was not in hierarchy or real military structure. They were all Mansabdars carrying their own Gudeswars. You see? So what leadership do you call it? That, okay, give the responsibility and you make great monuments and have harems. And to protect those harems, you have children of the farmers who have been collected because they did not pay their taxes and made them eunuchs by crude method.
Yeah.
And they are guarding your harems. So where is that? What leadership is this?
if I imagine
just
this, if I imagine this in today's world, it feels like, even while imagining, it feels like hell on earth. And I'm just thinking, for how many hundreds of years our country has lived under the mercy of such people. First the Mughals, and then the British, and well,
and then now we are our politicians. Don't delete this.
yeah.
The land grabbing politicians of our country. We are living under them. But we are not Shivarai, We cannot raise our sword. We are scared. We cannot ask them questions.
If you think, if and it's a hypothetical question, if Shivarai was present today in today's world, how do you think he would tackle the problems of current
He
India?
would be so sad. He will say, why did I fight for such fools and render them free? Because corruption is everywhere, every level.
Corruption was at his time as well, ma'am. During his time also.
Not in his. He reduced it. He created systems. That is what I'm trying to tell you. What he did, So now, coming back to the Mughals, when Aurangzeb took the power, he had 2 lakh Gudaswar the unke paas. Means more than 7,000 military mansabdars, 2 lakh Gudaswar, the cavalrymen, then 3 lakh infantrymen, footmen, 3 lakh, और 40,000 artillerymen. Itna bada samrajya means optics. It doesn't belong to the king. It is outsourced.
Yes.
And the king himself has his ahadis. They were
What's
for the show. His own soldiers.
Okay.
They were only good for the parade, very well dressed, very well paid, never seen the battlefield. So, इतना बड़ा साम्राज्य, इतना बड़ा cavalcade, देखते ही डर लगता है. पर उनके cavalcade में the mansabdars used to bring their wives, their concubines, because there was no real war, They'll just scare people and घुसाओ, कहाँ भी घुस जाओ. So they used to have wars of expansion. Means क्या? जाके घुस जाओ, ये ले जाओ, conquer this, conquer that. So, but the thing is, like, in their cavalcade, the mansabdars, first of all, the 2 mansabdars will never get along, very rarely. इसके पास ज़्यादा है, इसके पास कम है, इसके पास हाथी ज़्यादा है. He has 3 Mercedes cars and 2 BMWs, and I have only one poor little, Indian SUV. It's a human trait. So mansabdars, and there is no hierarchy, there is no chain of command. Then they will bring their wives to the field. Why? And not one wife. Several wives, their concubines, the servants of the concubines and the wives. Then for them to shop, lot of traders will be there, the clothes and the diamonds and the pearls and the food traders. And the Mughals had to have beautiful tents. Beautiful tents. So there will be camels who are carrying the tent equipment. Somewhere palatial tents. Okay, इतना बड़ा ये सब जाता था. Their Gudaswars used to get salary of 20 rupees a month. 20 rupees those days were great. And how much Shivarai's Gudaswars would get? How much salary was Shivarai's horsemen would get? 2 rupees. If they did not love their leader,
they would not work for him.
Exactly. That is, they would join the Mughals. But they didn't. So what does it show? You see? So that leader, that love, that systems creation, they saw it. They got their own leader after centuries, whom they could look up to, whom they could love and who loved them. You see, because that's what today's leaders must learn to love their people who work for them. I worked in the corporate, and I have yet to see a leader who really cared for people who worked for him or her. You are not the boss. You are not there to give orders. You are there to create systems which will work for many years. And you are there to look after people who look after the business.
There's a very popular book by an author called Simon Sinek. The book is called Leaders Eat Last. And he talks about the same thing, empathy being one of the most important traits of a leader, and how, every family might have father as the main guy who's doing everything, but the kids are going to do anything for the mother, because the mother is going to make sure that no matter what happens, even if there is one grain of rice, she'll feed the kids first, and then whatever is left, she's going to eat that. So the mother has always been the one sacrificing, and that's why I think the
leader
yeah,
is very difficult,
It is,
that
yeah.
position.
yeah,
Because even parenting, as a parent, I'm telling you, it's
Yes, ma'am.
always trial and error.
yeah,
So leadership is also trial and
Trial and
error.
error. Yeah,
It's not fixed that these are the rules and these are the books.
Mm.
No.
Mm.
You think Shivrai would have read books on leadership, or he had gone to Harvard?
Yeah.
Harvard to study?
No, yeah.
Was there? I don't know.
No, of course not.
So the thing is, you have to have half the heart of a mother and half the heart of a father, which is an extremely rare combination.
Very rare quality. Yeah.
That is what he had. You see?
To cut down the limbs of an important member of your empire, because he touched or misbehaved with a woman.
And it was not an empire. It was just a Jagirdar
A
then.
Jagirdar, the small village or town
Yes.
or whatever. And at the same time care for the other
Yes.
members. It's a rare quality.
He
ma'am.
did
You
not-
can't be strong and soft.
Plus, it is not just his team. He was building a nation, not a company. So his customer was his people of his nation.
Yes.
They had to be happy,
Yes.
So in one of my books, now I'll tell you the crux, in Sambhaji, this books. After his death, Sarnobat Mohite is remembering what conversations he had with Shivrai. So in one of the conversations, Shivrai asks that when you are recruiting, now this is very important in today's, when you are recruiting a person as a soldier, what qualities you will see in that person?
I'm glad you brought this up, ma'am.
Yes. So bravery, physique, fearlessness. Yes, it has to be basic. Like for example, today's, when you want to recruit somebody, education, how they behave during the interview or whatever.
How good a team player they are.
Whatever. So Sarnobat Mohite says that when I interview a person for a soldier's job, I will see other than everything else, I will see his loyalty. So as today's manager, what will they take him or not take him? I'm asking you as you are a youngster. I have left corporate world long back. I'm retired. So loyalty.
I think for a leader, it is important to see this quality in a person, but most leaders don't even consider it as an important quality unless they realize that it is important. And by this, what I mean to say is that you need to have a vision as a leader, and then put your team to test to see whether they have this quality or not, and only then can you realize it.
I'll tell you Shivrai's answer. What Shivrai tells.
Yeah.
What Shivrai tells Sarnobat Mohite. He says, loyalty can be bought with money.
Okay.
Fame. You think so many followers of politicians, they are doing it without money today?
No, of course not.
No. Loyalty can be bought. Today you want 5,000 people for your speech. Pay them 300, 400 rupees. Give them a good food. They'll all come.
Yeah.
Loyalty can be bought. Loyalty can be extracted from a weak person by a powerful person. You know, in the house itself, you are loyal to a person who is, he's very strict and powerful and he earns money or she earns money. Loyalty can be extracted. Loyalty can be manipulated. And if somebody else offers more money, loyalty can also go. What is the most important thing, according to Shivarai, when you recruit a soldier, is his love for the nation. So even after you die or the leader dies, his love for the nation will carry on with his job. Understand? I tried to go into the skin of Shivarai to write these books. It took me 25 years.
It's hard because you have to read between the lines and...
Yes.
Yeah.
So, loyalty, according to Shivarai, is not a big thing. But today's lot of people I see, he is loyal to me, so he is in the company. I have seen it in the corporate world. But for Shivarai, it is love for the country was more important than personal loyalty to himself. It is one lesson. In the same book, another thing, if you want to have relevant talk of today's,
Yes, ma'am.
It's not just the invention of his military systems he invented. He invented civil systems because he reduced the Watandar's powers and paid tax collectors. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when his wife in one of the Puttalama. Puttalama is a very strict and very straightforward and very nice person, in the book. And as I read in a lot of history books, very forthcoming. So she asks Shivarai that, what does freedom mean to you? And I have asked these questions in many colleges, wherever I went. What does freedom mean to you? Many girls, young girls, 20s, must be 18, 20, and boys, they replied, freedom means to us that we can do whatever we want to do. So what is Shivarai's take on freedom? Can you tell me? Can you just guess?
Ma'am, I do know because I have heard a lot of work and I have read the book a little bit. I want you to say it.
Yeah, so he says that freedom means to me that I can do whatever I want to do. But most important is freedom for me means I can say no to what I do not want to do and which is wrong. You see? So I always tell, I have met some Christ College law students. They have a college in Lavasa. So I said, don't sell whatever you do in corporate world. Don't sell your freedom for anything. You will retain that power with you where you can say no when something is going wrong. You see?
You worked in corporate and in pharma, and there it happens a lot because you have to hide the facts. And
we have to hide the facts. We have to bribe the doctors. Yeah. We have to bribe the hospitals. I got so fed up with that world at one time that I joined in Dubai. When I went, I worked for healthcare products which do not need doctor's prescriptions. Like healthcare, you can take your own. It was very disheartening actually, sometimes. It was very interesting though, to study different products and, to launch different products. But there is an ugly side to it.
Yeah, it is. What about Shambhu Raje's leadership qualities?
Yeah.
Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, because after Shivarai was gone, his job was not only to hold the fort together, but also expand.
No. He couldn't expand. I'll tell you why.
So yes. So then what happened and how did he?
So Shivarai died very suddenly. Nobody knew it. Shivarai just died. Nobody expected it. Actually, him to die. He himself might not have expected to die so soon because he was just 50. Now the thing is, when Shivrai was alive, Aurangzeb, lot of Aurangzeb sent many of his generals. For example, first was Shaiste Khan, then Mirza Raje Jai Singh, and how Shivrai tackled them is legendary stories. But Shivrai never had, though Shivrai knew one day, General Aurangzeb will come, descend on the Deccan with full might. It's around 500,000 people he will descend. So he had also already created a second line of defense by conquering 50 forts in the Carnatic country. And two are very famous forts. One is Jinji and one is Vellore, land fort. Yeah, but Shambhuraje, the paristhiti, the environment when Shambhuraje took over after Shivrai's death was different. Within a year or two, Aurangzeb descended on the Deccan. And Shambhuraje had to face the Mughal might all alone and leave. And that time, his father was not there to guide him. So he is the first Chhatrapati who had to face the might of Aurangzeb. First Chhatrapati. So his vision, how he handled the situation, how he negotiated with the Mughals, how he fought on the ground is different than what Shivrai did. His leadership quality was that he had to stand up and he had to encourage his people. But I'll tell you, what one thing he did inspired the Marathas. What one thing he did, which inspired and which brought out the fire in the hearts of all the Marathas. May they be, Maratha means Marathi speaking. May they be Brahmins, may they be Maratha or Kunbis, the farmers, may they be Balutedars, may they be tribal, is that, and even Shivrai could not have done that. When Aurangzeb came, he knew. He did not directly come and conquer the Marathas. It was impossible because to take one fort of Ramshed, which you will see, 20 pages I have devoted in Life and Death of Sambhaji, Mughals took 2 to 3 years. One small fort of Ramshed, which belonged to the Mughal, which Shivrai had taken over. So Aurangzeb decided to first take the Qutub Shahi, take Adil Shahi first and then take the Qutub Shahi and collect lot of money from their treasury and bribe the Watandars whose power was lost because of Shivrai. So next 4 to 5 years, he took over Adil Shahi and Qutub Shahi, where Adil Shahi, Sikandar Adil Shah just surrendered. Because Aurangzeb promised him a lot of other things. And Qutub Shah, Tana Shah also surrendered. Immediately, when the times were bad. Of course, there were a lot of treachery and a lot of histories there, which you can read in my books. They surrendered very easily. But Shambhuraje got captured. Okay. And what did Aurangzeb say to him? That you asked all your fort commanders to surrender. Give us the keys. Okay. Then we'll spare your life. And tell us which Mughals, our soldiers, had helped you in getting information about us. So, but Shambhuraje did not agree. He did not surrender like Sikandar. He said, you kill me. No problem. I will not I will not ask my fort commanders to surrender. 100, still after bribing the fort commanders, after bribing the Watandars, still the Marathas were holding 100 core forts, So, when they captured Shambhuraje, Aurangzeb proposed that you give us the keys, ask your fort commanders to surrender, and you tell us the names of the Mughals who actually were in connection with you. They were connected with you and they were giving information about us.
Yes.
So Shambhuraje said, I am not going to do that. I am not going to surrender. You do what you want. Okay. to kill me. And he knew that he will not be killed swiftly. He will be tortured. Once his tongue will be cut, his eyes will go. They will actually pull out the eyes from the socket. He knew everything. When he died such death, when he went with such, he showed bravery in death. The Marathas, every Maratha's heart was set on fire.
Because the leader was ready to die for them.
Exactly.
Usually it is the other way around.
Yeah, so what Shivrai could not do while he died, Shambhuraja did a magic when he passed. That is leadership, you see.
How old was he when he passed?
32. 32. A strapping young man.
And how many years after Shivarai passed?
9 years.
9 years after.
9 years after Shivrai passed. So, see, leadership is not just one thing. That's what it's not. There are no laws what you should be as a leader. So, what means when he died for his nation, without surrendering to Aurangzeb, he showed his leadership qualities. Yeah. And he lit the fire in every Maratha's heart, Marathi speaking heart, where that fire actually extinguished the fire of jihad of the Mughals. You understand what I mean? That is why even after Shambhuraja's death, he died in 1689, till about 1707, the Marathas fought till Aurangzeb's death and never allowed him to win their part of the world.
And when the British arrived, most of the...
That is later, much later.
But most of the power was transferred from the Marathas.
From the Maratha hands to the British hands. Otherwise, the entire subcontinent would have been Pakistan.
Yeah.
See, that's the relevance of their leadership. That's the relevance. I mean, some people say, so what, it would have been Pakistan. I don't know really what would have been and what could have been.
Yes.
There are no ifs and buts in history. So this is what happened.
Fun. I think there's a lot to learn from this conversation of ours, ma'am. And to sum it up, I would say the most important qualities that I learned today from these two great leaders is 1, the love for your people, 2, to create systems, and 3, to the ability to die for them, so that they are ready to kill for you. And
one more leadership quality.
What is that, man? Please break it down.
So when Shaiste Khan, they wanted to go, because Shaiste Khan had come with 100,000 people, and he had actually plocked through Shivrai's small Jagir. That was, it was not a nation then. And he was staying in Lal Mahal, which was built for Shivrai's mother. And Shivrai's childhood had gone in that small place in Pune.
Mm-hmm.
So they, just like Osama bin Laden, how midnight attack, Shivrai had planned much before Osama bin Laden's plan, that midnight attack on Shaiste Khan. And so many people say, how can he attack? How can he go inside somebody's bedroom and attack?
Mm-hmm.
So I say, do you ask the same questions to Americans? Do you have the guts? Plus, Osama bin Laden was in Pakistan. Shaiste Khan was in Shivrai's house.
Yeah.
If somebody sleeps in my bedroom, I have a full right to attack in my property.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that time Shivrai wanted to lead. Shivrai wanted to lead that. So his Pradhan asks, Pradhan post was not hereditary. Shivrai actually believed in merits. Nothing, no post was hereditary.
That's also one of
the leadership,
Yeah, that's also another leadership.
So he asks in one of my books, Frontiers, that you don't go, you may die. So Shivrai tells him that death, uh, time of death may be variable,
But it's inevitable.
but that death is inevitable and constant. That's the only constant thing in life. My people's morale is very down. And only if I show them that I led this operation, only then the morale of my people will go up. Even if I die in that operation. Show me any leader, today's leader. Show me one leader. You see? So that is how I call leadership. That is why I love Shivrai 350 years or 400 years after his death.
Now, I think using your corporate knowledge and the knowledge that you've acquired while researching for these books, it might be a good idea to write a corporate leadership book using these two leaders as well. Another thing that I often think about is to create such an empire. It is important for you to also understand finances. And it is important for the leader to create some comfort in that sense, so as to have enough resources to finance the mission. How did Shivrai and Sambhaji do it?
Shivrai, how did he start it actually? So, there are two illegitimate ways to make money for a nation. One is looting the enemy territory and extracting taxes so harsh that the tax giver is half dead, which happened in the Mughal Empire.
Yes.
Okay. In Shivrai's case, and also they outsourced. They kept their mansabdars and jagirdars. But in Shivrai's case, the money had to go from his treasury. So money cannot be just by looting. Legitimate money. What is the legitimate money? Is to extract taxes from the agriculturist. Another is to tax the traders or business people. What Shivrai realized is that the Portuguese had become immensely rich by sea trading, by trading spices, ores, saltpeter, explosives from India, then importing Arabian horses for the cavalry of the Adil Shahi and Qutub Shahi, because Mughals got their cavalry from land routes, from Arabia. But these people had to get it by sea routes. So they had become rich. And they were also charging, suppose you want to be a sea trader and you are a native of Konkan, they will give you their passports and extract a lot of money from you on the pretext that because they had a small warships, those warships could protect the merchant ships from the pirates, who were one of the main pirates were the Siddhis of Janjira, who had come from Ethiopian empire. They were the part of that Ethiopian empire. These people had come and established themselves in Janjira, Port Janjira. They were the pirates. Shivrai says, I can have my own warships. My own people can make money. Why would we pay such heavy taxes to Portuguese who are Europeans and not even from our land? You see? And Shivrai was the first king who objected when the Portuguese and English started fortifications. He said, if you are not political, the English first said we are apolitical. So Shivrai says, if you are apolitical, why do you want the fortresses? Live like traders. So he wanted to create a navy. It is not to have wars on the water with Portuguese or Spain.
Merchant navy.
Merchant navy. To create that. Also, what happened? There were salt pans in Konkan. Okay, so what this Konkan salt was very superior quality. And it used to be so expensive that ordinary people could not afford it. And this Portuguese again started, they were extracting money from our people. So what did Shivrai say? he also had a finance brain. He said, okay, tax them more. He created his own salt pans because he acquired a lot of land in Konkan, and he taxed the Portuguese salt to an extent that Portuguese had to pay the money.
And that's how he financed his mission.
So all these things, he wanted to finance his nation. Even when he went to Surat, it was not a loot. It was not a loot. Surat was a financial capital of the Mughals. Okay. The Mughals had kept their own mansabdar there called Inayat Khan. He was supposed to keep 3,000 to 4,000 horsemen. But he used to, whatever money he got through the taxes, he spent on his children's marriages. Sounds familiar? And he had kept only 1,000 horses. 1,000 horses. They were very rich traders like Virji, Vora and 2-3 like that. Okay, so these traders also
I'm still laughing at
the trade.
It sounds familiar.
So these traders also, they used to stock the goods like gloves and all that, clothes, spice, and then they will increase the prices and sell in the market. So they used to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So Shaiste Khan had come to Shivrai's Pune, and he had come with 100,000 people who have 100,000 horses and so many of their other people. So when he had come, one horse needs 7 kilos of grains to eat, and the entire area of Jagir of Shivrai was lost. All its, the grains, the farmers' barns were burnt, looted, and so much financial loss. The agricultural system had collapsed due to Shaiste Khan. So Shivrai went there to vasool the paisa. Give us back whatever is because of your invasions. We have lost so much money. So we want to, and he actually did not attack Surat. The entire army camped for 2 days, and they asked Inayat Khan to send the traders for negotiations. He'll take the money and go. But Inayat Khan did very foolish things. So when people say, oh, he plundered Surat, was it good or bad? It's when Mughals do it, it's a war of expansion. When Shivrai did it, it is dacoity. Wo nahi hoga. So I am the lawyer of Shivrai. I always tell in this regard. The lawyer of my leader.
So another leadership quality that I understand from this is that the leader should also understand, apart from strategizing, should also understand the financial intricacies.
Absolutely.
Of business or, whatever
Absolutely.
profile they're in.
So being a leader is not a child's play, So being a leader is to being a mother and a father and a financer and a protector and a fighter. There are many dimensions of leadership which you cannot read from one book. And the empathy and the love for your people, which is most important. And then only you will get the love of your people back.
It's a practical and an emotional side that needs to be developed equally.
And now, today I was listening to somebody's podcast. They said, being empathetic and understanding people's sorrows is the height of one's intelligence. That's only a most intelligent person can understand other people's sorrows. So in one of my books, this is the last thing about leadership. When Shivrai and Raghunath Korde, one of his diplomats, they are watching a sunset, and beautiful marble mountains which are violet in color suddenly become dark like ash after the sunset. So Shivrai says this is all Maya. The whole world is Maya. So Raghunath says that if the world is Maya, why we fight wars? So the leader of the Maratha says that, but when hunger strikes the stomach, it stings like a bee, and that pain is real. When humiliation happens, that pain is real. So even if the world is a Maya, the pain is real. So we have to relieve that pain. And the most important part of our life is to reduce the tears of our people, make them comfortable. So I'll sum it up as this, what is his philosophy? And give me one leader today in India who thinks the same way. If even one leader we get like Shivarai, India will prosper. And thank you.
Thank you for doing this. These are golden nuggets coming in from you, and I'm glad that I'm able to capture them and share it with everyone else. Thank you for doing this, ma'am. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.